Assalamualaikum and a very good morning, ladies and gentlemen. A very warm welcome to the International Construction Week, Illyas FTK 2021, Slot 5. My name is Siti Balkis binti Muhammad Razi, a third-year student from the Department of Civil Engineering Technology, Faculty of Engineering Technology UTHM, as the host of this morning's ceremony. For your information, our slot for today consists of two titles. The first title is the impacts of COVID-19 pandemic on the construction industries and acceleration of digitalization. And the second title is planning process of development project in Malaysia. Before we begin, I would like to introduce the moderator and the invited panel for today. Our moderator for today is TS Dr. Penil Ang Sun Eun, Senior Lecturer, Department of Civil Engineering Technology, Faculty of Engineering Technology UTHM. Alongside our first speaker, IR Dr. Julian Lee, Chief Executive and Founder, Cinnotek International NZ Ltd. And our second speaker, Mr. Imran bin Illyas Ahmad, Senior Civil Engineer, Inception's Consultant Sendirian Berhad. Without further ado, it is now my pleasure to invite TS Dr. Penil Ang Sun Eun, our moderator for today, to lead the webinar. Please welcome.
Right, good morning and thank you, Ms. Balkis, our MC today. Okay, so welcome once again to iCIW. My name is Penil, right? So I'll be the moderator today. I'll be moderating both slots, one slot, but both two sessions. Okay, so because it is early in the morning, not very early, okay, 10 a.m., but maybe some students, they are, perhaps they just got their breakfast, they just scrambled out of bed. So if you want to have a warm up, you can do a fingers warm up. So how you do it is that maybe if you are familiar with Zoom, okay, you can find the reaction button below. We have many different emotions, right? So you can just kindly just click one button that express your feelings today, right? It could be a smiley emotion, emoticons. It could be a yawn, you know, it can be feeling sleepy, okay, or it can be a thumbs up, because maybe you feel that your friend Balkis did a very good job. All right, so come on, you can just give yourself some warm up, okay, since you're right in front of the screen, right? See, Dr. Julian has started. Okay, all right, good. Okay, so today we are very privileged, okay, because we have two speakers, right, for slot 5. And I will just take a little bit time to introduce our first speaker, right? Dr. Julian Lee, who happens to also be the IAP, okay, Industrial Advisor Panel for Bachelor's Degree, Civil Engineering Technology Construction Program. Okay, so for those of you who are UTHM students, BNC program. Okay, so he is our IAP. So for the past 2 years, he's been our very close advisor. Okay, so like what Ms. Balkis said, he is the Chief Executive and Founder of Cinnotek International Group in New Zealand, in Malaysia, Singapore, and Hong Kong. Okay, so he is also a Chartered Civil Engineer in UK and New Zealand. So prior to Cinnotek, he was a Principal Civil Engineer in Genesis Energy, New Zealand, and also a lead engineer of Wally Parsons and senior engineer of Arup, Singapore. So you can see he's been around the world, around the globe. And he has acquainted experiences in design, site supervision, project programming, construction management, right, including large-scale mass transit and railway, industrial, high-rise commercial and residential buildings, right? So basically his job scopes cover large-scale infra and building development projects, right, in New Zealand, Singapore, Hong Kong, China, Africa, and Northeast Asia. It's interesting to be able to work in the African zone, right? So without further ado, let's put our hands together to welcome IR Dr. Julian to speak on the impacts of COVID-19 pandemic on the construction industry and acceleration of digitalization. So in your Zoom emoticon, you can put your hands together, right, to welcome Dr. Julian. Okay, Dr. Julian.
Okay, thank you, Penil.
Thank you.
Yeah, thanks a lot. Very good morning to everyone. And it's my great pleasure to be here and just let you guys know that I just arrived in Malaysia yesterday. I take the first flight, that the VTL flight that from Singapore to come over here. Unfortunately, we still need to use the Zoom now rather than we can see each other face to face. But I can see very soon that we will have the opportunity. I'm very happy to pay my visits to UTHM again. Yeah, and I enjoy the food there. I really want to have kopi and makan together with you guys. So thank you, Panel, that invite me again that to speak in the this construction week. And I think previously I speak in a few run in different occasion. So so I'm very happy to share with you during this pandemic that how our construction industry have been affected, and also the digitalization, how this pandemics become one of the catalysts that can accelerate the process. And I'm quite sure that you guys have different feeling about this COVID-19 and how it affect your normal life. And maybe I spend 1 minute to share with you what I'm doing in these 2 years. So basically, I remember that when the time that I dropped by UTHM back to 2019 something, that when we have a very good sharing on BIM, building information modeling. At that time, we don't expect that it would take so long before that we can meet face to face again. Yeah, I don't expect at that time that I think that, okay, maybe very soon that I can easy drive over to your university from KL, from Johor, from Singapore. It's easy, right? At that time, a few hours driving, not easy, right? Everyone's so easy that to come from one location to the other location. And for me, I'm from Hong Kong. You can see my accent is from Hong Kong, but I've been migrated to New Zealand and set up my company Cinnotek in New Zealand. Then subsequently that I come to Singapore, Malaysia, go back Hong Kong, and I have the business that over these 4 cities. And before I set up my company, that you can see my portfolio just now. Thank you, Penny, that very good introduction. That I travel around different city, Africa, everywhere that to work for infrastructure and building project. At that time, I don't expect it's so difficult to travel around. Yeah, and during the pandemics, I have to make a decision at that time. Okay, need to be stationed in one location. Whether New Zealand is the good one, Singapore is the good one, Hong Kong is the good one, or Malaysia is the good one. Yeah, I still remember the time when I tried to call over my friend, hey, what do you think the best location that maybe I can set up? I can just stay there for a while, then see what's happening. You can't imagine that when the time this pandemics come over, that when I call over, everyone told me that, hey, Julian, you should come to Malaysia. Hey, Julian, you should come back to New Zealand. Hey, Julian, you should have to go to Singapore. But my parents told me, hey, you better don't move lah. You better just stay in one location and don't move over, because you never know that whether you get into that places and then you will be so easy to go out again. So at that time, my very good friend told me, hey, Julian, you come to Singapore first because we have a few projects that waiting for your involvement. So no choice lah. Then I take my flight to Singapore, and I have been locked down in Singapore for 4 months then. I can't fly to anywhere. And at the time, I think I also share some session with UTHM that, okay, I'm in Singapore now and I'm doing VC video conference, seminar online, webinar, all these things. And then remote control my project that in New Zealand, in everywhere. And I try to learn about I mean that I have been involved in digitalization for quite some time, but somehow that when this pandemics come, I can see using digital tools is a must now, right? Because you can't really easy to communicate with each other, right? You can't see each other so easily. You can't actually go to construction site to see the issue. And also this pandemics affect the manpower, workforce, resources on site, and how you can manage if you don't have the people working on site. A lot of issues that come over. Then the 4 months that are stuck in Singapore, that I also learned about how to be patient and how to be try to use other method to resolve the issue. Yeah, because this pandemic give me a big lesson. Why everything can be so sudden that everything just stop. Then after the vaccine, it's lucky that we have the vaccine program. Also, we have those a lot of checking system. You guys here also have the digital tracking system. Yesterday when I come over, wow, a lot of all these scan things. And then the document that we store in the common platform, and people can be easily that to understand whether you already go through those checking. You just use this whole thing that to compare with what we talked about in the last few years on BIM, and the digital supervision tools is quite similar. Just to make sure that the document or the checking are in place and then saved in a common environment platform, all these things. So very funny. Yeah, but the pandemic somehow that when you compare with the BIM, when you compare with digitalization, there's a lot of things that you can learn from the pandemics. And today I like to share the topic is the impact, how these things that will be affecting the construction industry, and how it actually, to some extent, we have the bad thing, but we also have the good thing, that how it can accelerate the process that we go to this digitalization. So maybe I share my PowerPoint. So I think you guys can see my PowerPoint, right?
Yes.
Yep. So I'm Julian and from New Zealand, Hong Kong, everywhere. So I'm actually quite keen on using BIM. That when my first project, I'm not surprising you guys. My first project using BIM is in Africa. At that time, I worked together with with the mainland China contractor, that they already have the idea by using this digital thing, 3D model, that to somehow to actually to model the building, the basement, and the E&M pipeline. But at that time, I'm not that really keen because I see a lot of things is quite simple. I mean that it's not that mature enough. I still think at that time it's a gimmick to tell the client that give us more consultant fee. But at the end of the day, it's not the fact, because after that first experience, 11 years ago when I worked in Singapore in downtown Taiwan, it's my second project that using BIM. But at that time, I worked with a French contractor called Jonathan. We worked very closely, and then we used BIM that to somehow help us to setting out some coordinate, some of the system. I mean on site that we check against those BIM model. Before that, we punch through one horizontal pipe out and then go there and then cut existing foundation. So you can see these digital tools can help you guys to have a better understanding of what you are doing on site. And also all the data, all the information can be in a centralized platform that in future, or not in future, but during the whole construction process, that you can share with different shareholder and every partner, every people that can be easy to access the information. And this impact of COVID-19, I just now I mentioned the workforce productivity, cash flow is also another issue that affecting construction industry very significantly. I have been in Singapore quite a while, and then I see the government in Singapore, they try to bump the money that to the contractors, try to bump the money to the consultant, try to bump the money that to the supply chain to make sure that they won't die. Yeah, but in other countries, for example, China, Malaysia, or other countries, I don't know whether they have this so-called the scheme that to help the industry. But sometimes that I will say the scheme that the government support won't be that long time. That maybe a short period of time can help. But at the end of the day, that we have to look at the way that we manage ourselves. So workforce. I already talked in many seminars that I'm that kind of person that thinking technology come in, and then the new generation won't be that easy to do a construction worker work anymore, and we have to use the technology machine that to replace part of the resources that we make use of the human, and we use machine, use BIM. So this pandemics come. You can't have the people to on-site, right? You can't be easily that you have the people can be on-site working together, just like in the old days that we can work quite closely. We can actually run through the site easily. But right now, I tell you in Singapore, they divided the site into different zones. and the worker cannot climb over from one zone to the other zone, and the data that the worker come into the site have to be stored in the centralized system. If this gentleman that or ladies that have a potential to have that COVID case, then the whole zone need to be checked. Yeah, so you can see right now this COVID make a very big impact to the workforce management on site. And productivity, again, by using digitalization, we always saying that we can improve the productivity. And right now that we do need the tools to help us, because you imagine that if you don't have the tools to help you to manage the site, how you can convince people that allow you to have people working on site? And in the old days, you can still think that, okay, if my site have the delay, then I bomb 1,000, 100 people come to the site to work. But now you cannot doing that easily. So digitalization is one of the way. BIM is one of the way. Cash flow again. If you don't have the streamlined process, then all your cash will gone and you don't have the money come in. And by using digitalization, I can see a better control of the budget, a better control of the cash flow, and also can convince people that the resources they put in that can be justified. So I would say this pandemic actually giving the industry that a big lesson. Hey, what is the next step? What should be the coming future for construction industry? Can we still have 1,000 person that working downstairs and then do all those works that just like the old way? Or we use the IBS system together with BIM, or we use the drone, we use all those automated machine. I'm not kidding you guys. In Thailand, some of the project in Japan, they have the excavator, bulldozer, all this thing is remote control one. Yeah, we don't really need someone that to be there and then to control the machine. Yeah, we can just use a remote control, but expensive lah, to be honest. It's not that really easy to be commercialized. But to be honest, to me, the future will be going in that way. Yeah, but this pandemic is pushing us a big head and then to go up to this direction. So I think before the pandemics, a lot of study, McKinsey, EY, a lot of study already mentioned to us, hey, our industry, construction industry seems to be quite an old style one, that we don't have that kind of, that just like the mobile technology, the mobile phone. You imagine 20 years ago, yeah, what is the phone look like? It's just like a very big tools, right? And right now it's so small. And it's actually a computer right now, right? You don't really need to have your computer that you bring over. In the old day, I bring over my computer, very heavy one everywhere. But now with the cell phone, that you can easily to have all this application in one very simple mobile phone. How about construction industry? Where do we have this? To be honest, I think the technology already there. But why we are so hesitated to have the technology and innovation come in? I chit-chat with a lot of people, not only consultant, contractor, but also government. I think one of the key issues why we are not that welcome technology or reluctant to have a change is because that the consequence that we are facing if we fail is drastic and also catastrophic, and people will be quite scary, feeling quite scary that if we fail and then the whole thing collapse and all this thing, that the price is too high. So that's why that when we have digitalization, we have all this 3D printing, all this thing, people will be quite hesitant whether the material is still good, is really good enough, whether the digital world, the virtual world actually represent the real world, or it's just like what I tell you guys, 20 years, almost 20 years ago, when I worked in the Africa project, people think that the virtual world is something that really virtual, we don't care about it. Yeah, but now the technology is already there and it actually can helping us a lot. But times already come to 2.1 and 2.2 is coming. So I always encourage the so-called the senior people, hey, the wave is coming, that we cannot just cover our eyes and say we don't need it. A lot of study, a lot of all this research that already demonstrated if we can put in the technology in, BIM definitely is one of the options. Other digital tools like Drum, all these things already in the market. Very easy that you can save your productive. You can have the productivity improvement by 50% easily, and the cost saving that can be a few percent easily. But if you imagine that by doing a good design, by having a very good cost control on site, you may also have this percentage 4 to 5%. But if you can integrate all these things together, then it actually can have more cost-effective solution that when you bring to the client, when you bring to the government, that is more effective. And BIM, I'm not quite sure what is the background of the audience today. It is the student, is everyone, right? So BIM, Building Information Modeling. I tell you quite often that when I talk about BIM, people will say, hey, Julian, Dr. Julian, I'm more on drainage, I'm more on welded, I'm more on infrastructure. So it's not my business, right? Building, right? But I tell them, hey, come on, it's not. Building information modeling, okay, this term that, to be honest, is quite, earlier stage that when people saying digitalization, saying using model that to represent a building, then to be honest, at that time they don't think about building infrastructure, everything. Yeah, but if you look at the definition, when you look at the BIM definition and this software that in the market, that how this BIM is working, is not confined in building. You can actually using in tunneling, bridge, infrastructure project, even city planning. Yeah, because the concept by using BIM is to have first time construction in the virtual world, that before you get the real things completed on site. So you actually do it in the computer, in the virtual world, that by using this software, this technology, BIM. Maybe I share with you guys a video. The video will give you some brief idea what is BIM.
What's the technology behind many of the iconic architectural structures being built today? It's a process called Building Information Modeling. BIM is a 3D modeling process that is changing the way people plan, design, construct, and operate buildings and infrastructure around the globe. As early as the 1960s, computer pioneers realized the demand for flexible digital building models. The breakthrough came in 1963 when Ivan Sutherland developed Sketchpad. This rudimentary application allowed users to define geometry and manipulate objects in space with only the help of an electronic stylus on a computer screen. However, these early predecessors built models without data on functional performance characteristics, meaning that without the information on how buildings work, they were rather superficial implementations. In 1984, these BIM forerunners became available for use on personal computers, but it wasn't until 1986, when Robert H. coined the phrase building modeling, that early programs were first used on large and complex projects, such as the renovation of a Heathrow Airport terminal. In 1993, the Lawrence Berkeley National Labs development of Building Design Advisor paved the way for systems providing performance data on how buildings and their components function. By the late 1990s and early 2000s, the contemporary outline of BIM had started to crystallize. Objects and shapes had fully embedded metadata and were able to understand their relationship with each other and the building as a whole. 2004 was a huge year for BIM. For the first time, designers, builders, engineers, and owners could all work collaboratively on one centralized, dynamically updated model. For example, if a designer made a change to the model, the project's construction shopping list automatically changed too, such as the number and size of windows. 2008. 4 years later, parametric modeling also took a step forward, with an avalanche of design outputs, giving users even greater control over their project decisions. Meanwhile, laser scanning and reality capture filled BIM models with precise, abundant data. saving time in project preparations, and clash detection made it possible to automatically locate on-site clashes, such as ductwork running through beams, and prevent expensive change orders. With help from clash detection, engineers for the China Zun Tower in Beijing caught thousands of issues in the BIM model. It reduced passive change orders by 80% compared to other similar projects. The indisputable efficiencies in time, material, and cost driven by BIM meant that in 2016, the UK became the leader in legally mandating that all public-funded building projects must use BIM. And other countries are soon following suit. By 2020, Germany is mandating BIM for all transportation projects. With BIM now in the cloud, teams can collaborate on the same model from all over the world, providing great efficiencies. In the near future, BIM and GIS data will merge into one model, helping designers make crucial decisions based on the precise geographic location. As 3D modeling technology advances and is more commercially accessible, the BIM process is becoming more and more integrated with building the wider world, promising a richer, more collaborative experience for users designing and building the spaces we live and work in.
So this is the video that I always, if I talk about BIM, I will just spend 1 to 2 minutes to share with you, with the audience, because it's basically to tell you what is BIM and how it can help us. And basically the life cycle process that throughout the whole building or infrastructure, from the design stage until the demolition stage, BIM can be involved in. BIM is not only for design. It's not only for playing around with the computer model that in the design stage, but you can help us that throughout the whole process, that even in the fabrication, construction, cost planning, and facility management and demolition at the end. So the whole process BIM can be involving. This is one of the projects I worked in Hong Kong at that time. It's a tunneling project. So you can see the right-hand side is actually what we are doing on site. We have excavation, we have tower crane, we have our excavator, we have everything on site. Then we try to do the BIM modeling by putting all the stuff that inside the computer model. And also we have those RFID, we have those real-time monitoring tools on site that to load about the exact location of the excavator, to load about exactly what is the construction's activities, and then we can plan ahead the coming. So it's not surprise. It's not something new. It's back to 2001 something. Yeah, it's already 5 to 6 years ago. So by the definition in UK, so basically, as I mentioned, BIM, everyone think building, but we try to, I mean that in the global perspective that we, different country, different corporate practice, try to make it more generic, to make it more clear to people what is BIM. So basically BIM, by the I like this UK definition, is a digital representation that of a physical and functional characteristic of a facility, creating a shared knowledge resources. The information about it will be forming a reliable basis for decision making during the whole life cycle, from earliest concept to the demolition. So this few sentence already summarized that, okay, BIM is not only for design, but it's throughout the whole life cycle process. It's a sharing platform, it's a digital representation of a physical matter. And some of the UK and overseas strategy or policy report, they keep saying that using BIM that can improve our efficiency, can improve our productivity. And the information need to be shared. You cannot just doing BIM that in your cave. You cannot just tell people that, hey, today I am doing BIM in my lab and I don't share the information with other people. Then this is not BIM. BIM is talking about sharing information, but the sharing but the share of the information is a bit complicated, because you imagine that in construction project that you have a lot of different people, architect, MEP engineer, CNS engineer, contractor. How come I share my information to the other people so easily? So we need a platform. We need something that in the cloud, I mean that in the common database that people can store all the information in. But you can imagine that if all the information come in, just like what you are doing in Google now, wow, a lot of information, which one is the correct one, which one is the one that you can make use. Sometimes very confusing, right? So right now we're also setting some of the game's rules that who should be the one that to put in the information in that particular disciplines, and who should be the one that have the authority to amend the information and approve the information to be make use of other people. So we need to set up those games rules that in the BIM process, that to make sure that no one that can just easily come in and then stir the whole thing and the information all mess up. It can't be there. If you need to be, I mean, if you want to have a successful BIM project, you have to set the rules that in such a way that people won't be that easy to destroy everything that in your system. A lot of qualification that we mean that for the project level, for the company level, for the personnel level, that we have a lot of different accreditation. Just like myself is a chartered engineer, and the UK civil engineering institution accredit myself as a chartered engineer, and the New Zealand professional engineer board also accredit myself as a PE there. So BIM also, that we have different accredited system to benchmark the project, whether it's a level 0, level 1, level 2, level 3, and they have different threshold and criteria. I'm very happy in Hong Kong at the time that I worked in Construction Industry Council. We established a qualification called BIM Manager and BIM Coordinator in the project, which means that if the public works project, the government project, if you actually want to get involved in the project, you have to be accredited the qualification by CIC Hong Kong that you are BIM Manager, you are BIM Coordinator. To some extent, it's a very good opportunity for young people that set up some target that when you want to come in the BIM industry, then you just like I come in the engineering industry. My ultimate goal is to become a chartered engineer, right? So if you come in the BIM industry, then you can become the BIM manager and BIM coordinator, accredited by different authority. In Malaysia, I'm quite sure CIDB is doing similar things that to promote BIM by putting those qualifications in. And just now I mentioned BIM level 1, 2, 3, and in each of the level in the project level, they should have a certain amount of different BIM manager and BIM coordinator inside this level. So all things are tied together. If you don't have the BIM manager, BIM coordinator, I mean the people, how come you can claim that your project is BIM level 2 and level 3, yeah, right? So you can see the BIM, the concept is the common model. We have the project data. We have all those team activity and communication, and all the people are working together. Software itself, I don't really think is a big deal, because the software, no matter you are using Autodesk, no matter whether you're using Bendy and Articulation, all this software in the market, you have a lot of different software that you can pick it. But quite often the client sector and the consultant, they will play the role that to make the decision by using Bendy, by using Autodesk, or by using what. But for the young people, just like the university student, I won't say, I won't keep asking you guys to attend those training courses from Autodesk or from who, because the tools itself, as long as that you understand the process, the fundamental, the tools itself, it won't be a big problem. Yeah, so I always say that the university can, okay, like you have your BIM center, you have your BIM training by training BIM 360, okay. How about in 5 years later, if they have the BIM 560 or 1060, then how? You have to train again, right? So basically that I would say that the focus should be on the fundamental from the first principle, rather than only manage the skills for the software application. The software application should be something we guide as a tools, just like an engineer that we train up by knowing the calculus, by knowing the mechanics, hydraulics, soil mechanics, a lot of things. Then when you go to the real world to work in the industry, then you have the software like Eacp, like Safe, a lot of software. But that part shouldn't be the main key in the university teaching. The main key should be the fundamental. So I keep telling my friend that from the uni that basically don't worry about the software. You just teach the fundamental. And somehow that when the people that come in the industry, they will have a lot of different software that they can make use. And AI, all these things are just like just now, I think the video also mentioned those analysis things that we can have different option that by using the BIM, by using the analytical tools that can do a parametric study and can give you a lot of option. I tell you, I involved in a lot of different deep excavation works. And the deep excavation, sometimes the shocking and the level, all this thing is a mess that on site that, wow, we keep changing. And the platform, temporary platform, how we put the excavator on top of the platform, all this location. AI can help already. AI can already help us that to give us a lot of different options, and by putting it into the BIM, before that we really excavate that, we already understand that which should be the best one that we can make use of it. Tunneling, building information, a lot of things that we can use BIM. This drawing that I want to attract people attention is all over the world, the different milestones that for the BIM target. In Europe, they already say, oh, by 2030, they need this and that. In Malaysia, they also have a different so-called target to achieve. And in New Zealand, when the time that I start my business there, that I invite my good friend from Stanford, that he Dr. Kelvin came that to come over and then to tell the Kiwi that how this BIM scoring concept that can help them that to benchmark themselves in the BIM capability. And Dr. Kim also at the time mentioned about the common IFC file format, because different model from Revit, Bentley, AutoCAD, other things, that how we convert the whole thing that into a common platform that everyone can be easily that to make use of the format that can use it as a shared information. Because some of the hurdles that I can see by using BIM with different software vendor is the format is not tidy, that we cannot easily transfer the information. So just like if you have a PDF file, that how you can transfer it into a Word file, similar to these things. Yeah, so if you get into the BIM industry, that you have to make yourself understand that, oh, everything needs to be shared with people. It's a shared platform. I cannot just do something that only my group of people know. I need to make sure that the other group of people, they can make use of my information. And the BIM score benchmark different project, different country, and they do a lot of these guidelines that how we can from BIM go to virtual design construction, a lot of things. And different government like UK, like Hong Kong, they do a lot of awareness survey. I have some feeling, I'm not quite sure, but I have some feeling Malaysia is doing something similar, that to look at their BIM so-called competency level and how user aware and the awareness level of different industry player, that whether they know BIM should be the way. I'm quite sure CIDB, my BIM center friend, they doing the same things. So you can see it is 2016 something, which is about 5 years ago. Before the pandemics, they already set up some idea and survey, and then how they push the BIM ahead. And back to a few years ago, when I go back Hong Kong and I see this policy address and the government policy address, I'm very happy, because they mentioned quite explicitly that in the project that we need BIM, and have the money that to support the BIM application, have the money that put in, and then for each of the project, if you use BIM, use all those digital method that to improve productivity, you can get some funding that from the government. So you can see top down is one method and bottom up is another method. I won't say only top down can make a successful story for BIM. It should be a combination of top down and bottom up. Bottom up is just like what university is doing. You guys train up the BIM people. You guys train up a good student for us that in the industry, they equip with the knowledge. Then when the top down, the money, the project, all these things come, then we have the supply that from the university, the student to come in. Then we can make the momentum. You imagine that if I only have money, I don't have a few people, how I can do. And the pandemics make me one thing to rethink, because in the old day, because people so easy to travel and digital were also so easy to be share the information. So I'm quite often that I have my drafter, my BIM modeler that in Philippines, in mainland China, in Malaysia, that helping me for the project in UK, perhaps, right? Easy, right? But now, because it's so difficult that you can travel around, and using VC, using this still manageable. But some of the study, a recent study that my McKinsey friend also keep telling me, hey, Julian, it's very funny. Because of the pandemics, make people have to be stuck at home, and the productivity definitely won't be 100% as compared with the office. But we tried to assess the case that in the last 2 years, that maybe at the beginning, we only have 30 to 40% of the effectiveness of using video conference. But now, maybe 50 to 60, or at the end, we can achieve 70. But you imagine that if you lead your people that to travel from home to office, that maybe 1 hour, 2 hours, they also need to be worried about this and that. If you look at this pandemic somehow that push us that to using digital tools, and people more easily that to be communicate by digital tools. So that's why that I keep saying that it's a good catalyst that to push this thing ahead. We have the plan already. At that time, people still waiting. I wait for money, I wait for something. But you can see the pandemic actually giving a big push that to the company, hey, you have no choice. Almost no choice, that if you need to be survived, then you have to make use of the digital tools that will help you. So this is some of my New Zealand project that when I work with Arab, the guy that they are doing those BIM model that by adopting in some English project. And they also mentioned about the whole thing, data analysis, design, documentation, and visualization, how the whole thing tied together. I don't want to go into very deep here because I know the student may not be that understand what is this whole process. But just to make you have a basic understanding that, hey, doing BIM is not only playing around with the software. It's data, documentation, analysis process. It's the process knowledge that you have to equip yourself. Crash detection, that how you make sure that by using the BIM, that the crash that quite often that we will encounter these things that are on the construction site, and we try to use the BIM that to reduce this chance that we have all those crash. So again, I show some video for you that the tunnel, the segment, that by using the BIM Refit tool 19, that easily that you can using BIM that in the analysis that easy to help you to formulate your design. So you can see always these things come into the main purpose is to make ourselves that have more effective way that to do the design. This one is interesting. because we also can tie the whole thing that with the GIS model, and also to look at different program, the timing. So don't only think that BIM is something for architect, only something for engineer. It's also something for quantity surveyor. And they look at the whole process, then they can easily calculate the quantity and monitor the construction timing. And also this thing to tie with the geographical information, and understand that, okay, the whole thing, if I have this pipeline coming over here, then what is the impact to the existing pipeline that in the city? It comes to another big concern: who should be the one that own this information? Government, consultant, contractor, or who should be the one? It's very big debate that how these things that can be properly managed information again. Just like in this pandemic time, that who should be the one that can manage the information for every single person that come in your country, come in my country, is quite a big argument, right? This is Auckland. So if you guys interested in to come to Auckland, you can see all this nice place there. I live in one of the condo here. So when we build up a new project, then we can easily to tie the BIM model that with this existing information, and we can see how those things are tied with the existing building, landscape, all those things.
Sorry. You just mentioned, you just say that who will own the data, is it? Is it consultant, or
it's
the
government? Yeah.
So in this kind of case, it's always very controversial. So normally, how do you all deal with it?
I would say if the end of the day, who is the client should be the one who own the data. Yeah, if the client is from government, that should be the government. But for private development, then if we talk about only a building, it not actually tied with other things. That should be the developer itself. But if the whole thing, for example, tied to MRT station, and also all the drainage things is tied back to the central drainage system, that should be the government and the developer. Yeah. But I always talk to the consultant. Hey, I think at the end of the day, even though you are the one to develop all these things, I don't really think you are the owner. But you should be the one that helping the owner, the client, that to deal with the information. So you can't just use that information in your other project if you don't have the permission from the client to allow you to use the data. So this part is quite controversial, because I also talked to my professor friend from the law department in Hong Kong. He is also very keen in BIM. He also tell me that it is very controversial that who should be the one that to make use of the information without any restriction. Even government, they may have the restriction, because maybe the information is owned by the developer and the government together, but the data stored in the government system. Then whether the government in their other development, they can make use of the developer, the information, I don't think it's easy that they can get the permission, unless that the government maybe set up some rules that at the beginning, everyone come in the information, you grant me the access, you grant me the permission to make use of the information. So all about contractual relationship, all about the legal framework. I will say Malaysia is good that you have the CIDB. I mean, my friend that dealing with this, I believe they have some guideline and rules. In Western country, in New Zealand, in Australia, they also set up some guidelines. Not easy, to be honest. Yeah, it have been arguing for many years. So the 3D, 4D, even 7D, a lot of D. I always say, people keep saying a lot of dimension, and Lola is okay. Like, just tell people that BIM is actually can sharing information until construction, cost, time, and maintenance. That's all. So the solution software, that how the whole thing tie together: visualization, crash detection, production of the document, analysis. And my friend,
Okay,
my friend Chris from Arab,
that.
that he's actually quite like to tie the whole thing with his mobile phone. That okay, this is an AR.
Wow. I hope we've done.
It's quite impressive when the first time that I see this in
I'm gonna cut
that back to
this out.
2018
I
at the
just want
time.
to show as it rotates that the text and the icons rotate with the view.
My God, this is cool.
It's cool. Yeah.
Okay, and now we're going to zoom into this area. And I'm going to show there. When I toggle the button, it's going to start glowing. And we can toggle that off again. And we can switch areas on and off. And we can also switch the POIs on and off. And obviously, as we move this around, it sticks with the model, and we can point at things and whatnot. So yeah, that's kind of all I wanted to record. Okay, so
Quite impressive, right? So a lot of all this AR, VR, all things tied with BIM. And this gentleman right now is still in New Zealand. I have a short chat with him 3 weeks ago. He asked me when you can come back to New Zealand. I said, I really don't know, friend. Yeah, but when the border opened, I will try to come back home. So my another good friend that they are doing MLT at that time, they also have very good process definition that from using BIM, what is the difference with the conventional DMB contract? In the conventional DMB contract, you can see a lot of milestones. You have to set up that the architectural layout have to be frozen, have to be visual, have to from the prelim, update prelim, pre-final, until final, and the combined surface drawing come in. You have a lot of milestone day, right? Because if you don't achieve that milestone, how you can come to the other milestone? But in BIM process, the central model, you actually is a dynamic process that the whole design is throughout the whole design process that will be updated from time to time. And all the people are sharing the information together. So the VDR workshop is very crucial. All the people will be sitting together. The virtual design reality workshop that everyone have to be sitting together. Then to make sure that the model we're happy, that the information we're happy, then come to the other one. All these people are so happy to achieve level 2. Okay, because I'm a bit running out of time, and I will more talking about the software. So as I mentioned that the software, no worry. No need to study all this software. If you study all this software, I think you already spent 20 years. So all these things that the lame, don't be so feeling so scary that whether I need to learn Tesla, and Revit and Benny all together. As I mentioned, no need. On the job training that you will equip yourself with the knowledge. So this one is when a time I work in CIC Hong Kong that I try to ask my boys that to help me that to prepare this slide, that the BIM modules, BIM management module, construction process, legal, operation. So how many topics that we can actually teach? Pendil, you can think about it, it's over 30 modules that you can teach.
Lord.
Quite crazy. A lot of things, a lot of topic that you can actually teaching in the university. So I always tell my university friend, no need to be so greedy lah. Okay, we more on the fundamental, more on those very essential component only. So I will say right now that we have the opportunity we need to be make ourselves clear that this is the future, that the way that construction industry will be going ahead. We can't rely on the old style method because the demand and the effectiveness of the project and the target of the project and the expectation of the project is much higher now. So we have to use digitalization. BIM should be the one. But how we define the roles of each of the responsibility of different parties inside the BIM process, who should be the authorized user, who should be the one that can define the details, all these things, we need to make it clear that to the project team member. And also the cyber security issue, that how you make sure that your data in the cloud platform that won't be easily hacked by people and all your project information leak out. So a lot of standard, ISO standard, and a lot of different security method that were already in place in the market, that how to protect our CDE, the common design environment, all this information. And another good things that I can tell you, the cloud technology, the 5G and the navigation satellite system, all this thing is helping us that to move our industry not only in BIM, in VR, in AR, but tie with the machine, tie with the process. So I will conclude my presentation by saying this statement. BIM is a process and is talking about process engineering, and this process engineering, BIM only one of the component, and we have a lot of different things that to come in, smart machine, GIS, a lot of other things come together, and you can see the opportunities this BIM can be crossed over with all this different technology. So thank you very much. I just in time, Pendil 11.
Oh, thank you. That is like a super fast, like bullet train. Actually, the slides are like, it is really so informative.
Yeah.
I tapped throughout your whole presentation. I feel like I have so many questions, but the thing is that we don't have enough time because for your information, Dr. Julian has to rush off to another meeting at 11. So, Dr. Julian, we don't have time for Q&A, right?
No problem. Maybe a few questions that I still can answer. Maybe 5 more minutes. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. So students, if you have any questions, you can quickly drop it in right now, right? So we only have 5 minutes left before we have a quick photo session. So I think Dr. Julian, I'm very curious. You mentioned about the AI, but deep excavation using AI technology.
Yeah.
So today you not only covered on BIM, but actually it's a bigger part of the IR4, right? So the AI, and yeah. I'm not sure whether Malaysia we have actually implemented AI in deep excavation. Do you mind to share a little bit on the process of AI?
I'm not quite sure whether in Malaysia you have the AI implement in deep excavation, but in Singapore I have already. Mm-hmm. So basically, if you have urban excavation, let's say 20 to 30 meter deep of excavation, and you have a lot of existing drainage pipe passing by your site, and also your excavation, maybe the structuring is not that really uniform one, have all those horizontal struct, but you have those diagonal struct. Then somehow the AI can help you to optimize the design by putting the struct at which location is the best way that to handle all this restraint. For example, the existing utilities layout and traffic diversion, because quite often that when we do the excavation in the urban city, that we need to direct the traffic. When you need to direct the traffic, you need some temporary platform that to support the traffic. So those locations, the AI can help us that to explore different options and then to find the best location that we put in all this supporting structure. Yeah.
Okay. So that means do you need to use like a specific software or there's certain algorithm?
Dynamos. Dynamos. Yeah. Okay. So sometimes that we will use Dynamos, we'll use Spider, all this software that to help us that by setting some of the criteria that in the design. Mm-hmm. You know, these things are very fun. Yeah, you set the so-called the constraint and condition, then they can make use of the condition, then to change the layout easily, then to give you the solution.
Wow. So it's like I think the programmer has to do a lot of job,
Yeah,
the
yeah,
algorithm
yeah,
and everything. Then we just
yeah.
key in the
Yeah,
data.
correct,
That's
correct.
interesting. I'm not sure about Malaysia, but we will move towards it, right? Okay.
Yeah, yeah.
All right. Thank you, Dr. Julian. So we have two questions from the students, right? The first question from Nur Ili Izian. She asks, what is the most challenging experience, that you have ever experienced?
I tell you, I can see the software, the technology itself is not challenging because it's already in place. It's the people, the mindset that how you can convince and try to tell the people that you have to do BIM, you have to move ahead. Very difficult, very difficult. Because I can see the people, why it's so difficult, and the challenge is on the people itself, because they have a lot of interest, they have a lot of party that they somehow that is not that really collaborate with each other. Sometimes that construction site, subcon, main con, they even though work together, but they have different concern, different objective. Consultant and contractor, client and contractor, client and consultant. Wow, difficult. Yeah, but we promote BIM is to promote a way that to collaboration. But in Asia, when I push BIM in different city, I can see it's a bit different with Western country. Yeah, because of the culture and because of the people not getting used to, because people always in Asia very comfortable in the cave. In the cave that I do myself, right?
Okay. So we are basically the Asians are more resistant.
Yes, yeah.
Okay, thank you. Okay, last question. I think we are rushing out of time. Miss from Ku Junjian. You are reading, is it? As far as I know, Hong Kong is high in population, lack of land space, or high rent of apartment. Cost of living in Hong Kong will be much more than people's income. People depressed and living in small space. So how to solve this issue by the developer to provide affordable and comfortable housing?
Well, this is more on something else.
This guy knows
BIM,
a lot about Hong Kong.
Yeah, you come together with me to Hong Kong first.
Okay, Dr. Julian is inviting you. Okay.
But I would say that because of the, it's supply and demand. The supply of Hong Kong, the housing is very limited, and that's why that in Malaysia, you see that you have 1,000 square feet, right? But in Hong Kong, that is easier. You only have 200 or 300 square feet. So it's because the land there is so limited, and then the people have to tone down their expectation by living in a small unit first. Then when you have more opportunity, then you can come to a bigger one. But in Hong Kong, it's not that easy and common to have 1,000 square feet. But if you look at Malaysia, because your land is much bigger than us, then you have more opportunity that you have 2,000 or 3,000 square feet. So basically, this is the difference. So if you ask me how to solve the issue, I learned from Singapore government. They have the 80-20 rules, that the 80% of the people living in public housing, and the 20 is the private sector. But Hong Kong, that is more or less the opposite. But somehow the government try to tune it down to 6-4, whatever. I think the government and developer and the people need to be work together that to look for the best way. And the demand and supply is one thing. And also, all my students in Hong Kong also complain to me, doctor, that the land and the condo is so expensive. How we can get a condo and get marriage? A lot of things. Ask
them to move to Malaysia.
They ask me how they can come here.
Ask them to apply UTHM.
Yeah.
Okay. Thank you, Dr. Julian. It's very interesting. It's very interesting talk we have today. I think we really need to get you another time, all right? To dig more of your knowledge. I think many students actually want to know more about the different experience you have around the world. Okay, but due to time constraint, I think we need to move on to our photography sessions. Okay, so I think everyone, I believe that you are ready. If you are available and convenient, please open your camera. We would like to see you, let Dr. Julian look at you for a while. Okay, so can I pass the time to our photographer?
Yeah, all participants, I will give 1 minute to open your camera and get ready for photography session.
Maybe 30 seconds, no time.
And sure. Open your camera.
Okay, let's give a thumbs up.
Okay, get ready.
Everyone, thumbs up, please.
1, 2, 3, smile. Alright, second pages. 1, 2, 3, smile. Page 3. 1, 2, 3, smile. Okay, last one. For page 4. Smile.
Oh,
Alright, thank you all.
okay. Thank you so much, Dr. Julian. We are very privileged and honored. On behalf of iCIW, we hope to see you again. And we can't wait to see you face to face as well.
Yep.
Okay, so enjoy your time in Malaysia. Before you go back to New Zealand, maybe. Okay.
Yeah.
Take care.
Okay, take care. Bye-bye.
Okay,
Bye-bye, everyone.
bye-bye.
Bye.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
Thank you.
Thank you.
All right. Okay. So thank you everyone for your participation, but please do not leave yet. We have Mr. Imran Illyas in the house. Let me check. Mr. Imran, are you there?
Yeah, hello.
Okay.
Hello,
All right.
yeah.
All right. Okay. Give me a moment. I want to introduce you. So Mr. Imran Illyas, actually he is not foreign to UTHM, okay, because he is one of us, right? He is an alumni in UTHM, okay, and he is actually Akira territory sendiri lah ya, Mr. Imran. So he's a senior civil engineer of Inception Consultants. Okay, he did his master's in civil engineering UTHM in 2012. Or almost 10 years ago, okay? And his experience covers design and obtaining authorities' approval for mixed development, residential, commercial, education building, road and infra, right? So I think, Mr. Imran, you're based in JB right now?
Yeah, correct.
I see a lot of your projects are at JB.
Yeah.
Okay, so today we are very privileged and honored to have Mr. Imran, okay, to give a sharing on planning process of development project in Malaysia. Okay, so this is an interesting topic because it's also a difficult one. Okay, so let's put our hands together to welcome Mr. Imran in the house. Thank you, Mr. Imran. Can I pass the time to you?
All right, thank you. Thank you, Doctor. So, thank you for inviting me. So, Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Good morning and selamat sejahtera to everyone. So, I share you my slide. I start with video lah. You have a look on the development.
All right.
In JB lah. Okay, basically video ni I share yang nearby tempat Johor lah. Last time I ada few project lah at this area. Okay, so okay, first of all, normally for the construction kita akan start with the kebenaran merancang lah. So apa itu kebenaran merancang? So kebenaran merancang adalah written permission from local authority. So local authority kat sini basically kalau kat JB lah, you ada MBJB, MBIP, MPPG and others lah. So this we call local authority lah, depend on that area. Okay. So planning permission is required after approval. So and also land permission after it's obtained. So kat sini maksudnya you kena convert your land before you can do construction. However, you can start this thing concurrent, depend on your project lah. Okay. So how big is your land to decide you need KM or not? So at the item number 3, it shows 1 acre also you need KM. Last time I have one project which only substation, TMB substation, 7 by 4 meter. Also they request, and then if 30 repair, then we have to do lah. So basically this one is a planning requirement lah. Then I think this one you can see later lah. I do want to introduce a bit about this. I explain more about how we are going to do the work. So this item, I think normally, okay, I go to item number 3 lah, for area outside of local authority. So this item saying that if that area not under majlis, so you need to go to the Jabatan Perancang Bandar and listen. Where at this stage, I think the submission is not so difficult. Then the next item, the decision is usually made by the local authority by the meeting of concern and district. So during that meeting, normally I think around 27 department will join to decide whether what they need, their needs. Okay, important item in considering application of planning. Okay, I go for the submission document for approval planning permission. Okay, normally if you have for the town planning, they will start let's say 500 acre lah. So what they do, planner will come in. So once planner come in, they will appoint us lah, CNS, and then MNE and surveyor lah, to identify. So on that, what we need to do is we need to prepare a fault report and drawing. And then also drainage report and drawing. Also sewerage report and drawing, water demand and traffic impact assessment. So at this stage, normally we do check the CNS requirement of that area. So I go for the, let's say, the saliran. So we need to divide the catchment, identify the existing stream. So at the KM stage, also we have to identify all these items before we go to the detail. because once this KM layout firm, we cannot change anymore. If you want to change, then you need to go for pindaan amendment. So after you go for this KML for the huge planning, then you will go for the next one. Next one is construction planning permission, which in Malay we call kebenaran merancang pembinaan. After you subdivide the overall one, then you go for this individual. At the overall one, we already confirmed the water tank and then the sewerage treatment plant and the flow, everything. So at this stage, I think it'll go a bit easier compared to the previous one. But the scope is smaller lah. But item you need to prepare, I think it's same as previous lah. So I go to the preparation. So once your KM approved, you go for KM pembinaan. And then the one I already informed previously. So the next one is after that one approved, then you can go for this detailed submission. Okay. So normally I start with the effort because that is the first item required by the contractor. So during that stage of work, we will design the platform level and then propose retaining wall. And normally we will follow the original survey. We won't go so far compared to the original ground level. If we go beyond that, then later we may have a lot of problem. And also Eacp design. So Eacp, basically Eacp, you need to submit to JPS. Okay, so this one you have to, first you need to submit to Majlis, and then also you need to get consent from JPS. Majlis will only approve once you get JPS consent. So this one also depend on the project lah. If your project is big, let's say more than 50 acre, then you need to go for detailed Eacp submission. That one is the other way around lah. Okay, so I go to the next one. So this one is drainage detailed submission. This one also known as saliran lah. Normally here we just call for saliran submission, because it's near with the drainage and with road and drainage. That's why we call saliran. Okay, so at this stage, what we need to do, we need to design the catchment and then check the topo. So I did give some info that Jupem. From here you can identify the topo . Last time I do it using a hard copy. Topo very difficult. So nowadays you have online. This thing very useful. Once later you need to design, then you know what is this. So after you identify your catchment, you identify your external drain, everything, then only you can propose detention pond, OSD. Normally less than 5 hectare, only authority give us to use OSD. Where OSD you don't need to provide what we call that reserve area. You just put in below the road, no need reserve. But detention pond you need reserve lah. So normally client not happy with this detention pond because here land is quite expensive. That's why they try to minimize. So normally we fighting. They request a smaller size. That one is normal. So the next one, we also at this stage we we design the membrane. So once these two items fit complete, earthwork and saliran, then we can call for tender and start the construction site. Because you only need these two items, then you can start the piling work and then substructure, superstructure. After that complete, then only you go for the next one. Okay. So the next one is sewerage detail system submission. Sorry. So here at early stage, you already identify the sewerage treatment plant, how big you need, and then the pump house. So normally we need pump house to because of the OGL. So you cannot divert the flow. So you need to provide the pump house. So all this we need to identify during KM already. Anything we miss, and then at the end, very difficult. Then a lot of things will come out. Funny thing. So for the sewerage, normally you need to submit the overall planning. Once after overall, then you can go for the individual one, PDC 1 and then PDC 2. And then you jump straight away to PDC 6, 7 and 8 lah. Then you can get the sokongan. Okay, so the next one is the water reticulation. So normally for the water rack, we will get supply from like JB is SAJ. So they will inform us where is the main water source. From there, we will identify our reservoir location, and then either we need elevated or ground. Is subject to the water pressure. Once we confirm the reservoir location and then the type of reservoir, then we identify inside the KM layout. So at this stage also you need to check either you need pump or not. If you need pump, then you need to provide bigger space for that reservoir reserve. And then you need to check your rising main, falling main, pipe size. So the bigger, if your pipe is big, then you need to also provide the service road. And then you go for the overall concept. After all this complete, you can call tender, then start work on site, and then start the work. So for the individual work, you need to conduct with the facing design, individual design submission. So all this approval. After you get all this approval, I show you the example. Okay, so like this one is water right approval. Normally we will pass this drawing to contractor, so they will lay the pipe by following our drawing lah. So once on-site work complete, then we will call the inspector to check and then finalize everything, and then do testing, chlorine flushing, pressure test. After that one all accepted, then they will issue a sokongan letter. Once they issue sokongan letter, then architect will prepare G form. So we will our professional engineer will sign off that G form, saying that this work has completed following our required. So then only they can go for applying CCC from authority. So this one, the next one is this one is sewerage. So the flow is lebih kurang sama compared to others. So you need to get approved, construct, get inspect, and then you get sokongan. Okay, this one are the details, and then last one, this one is the sewerage. So sewerage, this one only for this one is the individual land lah. So this one not showing up to STP. So for the STP one, that one we will refer to KML. Okay, so basically for every planning, I think CNS part is more challenging lah, as we need to identify it at the earlier stage. Anything we miss, and then very hard for us to do lah at the construction stage lah, compared to other lah, compared to M&E kan. So if you compare to M&E, I think their side I think more straightforward. They just need to provide substation. So the anchor of KML I think is CNS lah. After KML complete, then KMP, then only architect come in. So during I just inform you during the submission you need to go for online submission. I think, but that one is online submission. I think very easy. You can once you find, then you can do it like you log in into your Facebook. So I think that's only from my side. If you have anything want to ask, I try to answer based on my experience.
Right. Thank you, Mr. Imran.
Yeah.
Wow, that is like a lot of things being summarized in a few slides, but the process is pretty long and tedious, right?
Yeah.
There's a lot of documentation, and maybe you can share a little bit, like, will there be, I mean, like, is there a situation where you had to face, like, you know, when whatever you submitted and then it was not approved, right? And all the process that you have to deal with. Do you mind sharing a little bit more? Because you have a few projects that you had you were in charge of, right?
Oh, okay. So I think I have one. I think recently, one project at Kota Tinggi. So at that stage, I think our scope was very easy. Is we just need to provide the ACDC lah, and then. However, then we encounter at that side we got PRPC Petronas raw water pipe. So our approval at that stage cannot get approved. Then we need to knock their door to get approved lah. So I think a long process. That item make us need to wait I think around 1 year. You know. So identify them and then check. So refer to their spec, and then provide the design, and then also need to check with their comment everything, and come back. Then only we get the approval.
Why was it so complicated? Sorry, can you explain a little bit? Why was it so complicated?
Okay, it's basically they have a lot of department. So because I think they are very big, so they have a lot of department. So they also worry because the pipe will impact. If the pipe fail, the impact is so big. So that's why they are really care about it. So also during construction, they ask for their people to be full supervision on site. Which I think we pay for them. I think very high cost lah that one. That's why because the impact if any failure happen, the pipe crack. So because the pipe is supplying the pengerang there.
Oh, pengerang.
So if
need the oil and gas there.
Yeah.
No wonder.
So the impact is.
No wonder.
That's why they worry, so they check properly lah.
Okay, that's a good thing lah. They are being exceptionally careful. But like
Yeah.
during the 1 whole year of delay, then was everything put on hold?
Yeah.
Oh my goodness. Okay.
But we haven't get approved. On site haven't start lah.
Okay,
Usually just start lah. Once we get all approved.
Okay. Okay, thank you, Mr. Imran. So we have a question from Ahmad Daniel. He asked that in Malaysia, there are many authorities that need permission for the planning process. What are the difficult authorities that need to ask for submitting the drawing for the planning process? What rules need to be considered? There are certain authorities more difficult.
No, normally authority just request what the thing they need. Means whatever they need is helping us on the designing. If we overlook one item, so because we every submission is following our guideline, like drainage, everything we follow MASMA, everything, right? So authority will not ask more from that side lah. Anything we will just follow. Once you follow, then they will be okay lah. Sometimes got difficulty. Some authority technical person they don't understand. So what we do, we go meet them and explain why this, why that, why you need this one, why you need that one. Sometimes we just omit that item because not required. They didn't understand. We inform them lah. Lebih kurang macam tu lah.
Okay. So it's doable and it's negotiable as long as we explain.
It's depend on that engineer. How you conduct, how you move the work lah.
Okay, thank you. Right, any more questions from the participants, even lecturers? If you have something else to add.
Assalamualaikum, Mr. Imran.
Salam.
Okay, I'm Hairi
Yes,
from.
I am Mama Hairi.
I'm Hairi from Faculty of Engineering Technology.
Yeah.
Okay, I want to ask you about the what do you call it, the guideline. The form for kebenaran merancang.
Okay.
Is it available to us to see the checklist?
Oh, the checklist.
Yes.
I tried. I got several. I try to find. If I get, I share. Or later I forward to, or I forward to your team. Is it okay? Because I need to find it first.
Okay. One more thing. Is it available on your webpage? Is it available in website?
Yes. Very easy to get. You just online, subject to which majlis you need. Let's say if you go for MBJB, you just Google and then they will help you lah. Means you have everything. You have manual. So normally for the KM, they will lead by the town planner. So he will circulate the checklist. So we just support all document and pass to the town planner. Town planner will submit lah. So normally for the CNS, ada item that I had expand earlier lah.
Okay. How about the calculation of drainage and drain? Normally calculation is using MASMA, right?
Yeah, correct.
Is it compulsory to submit also with the drawing?
Yes, during KM, compulsory to submit.
Compulsory to submit.
Yeah, but that one is normally for the maintain lah.
And that one for band-aid.
During KML, so the roadside drain, that one not at this stage lah. That one after you get KMP, then only you start.
And then the engineer and for the what do you call it, ARI and ARI. Is it majlis have certain certain period to choose for the ARI for 10 years or 50 years? Okay.
Normally for the ARI, all majlis will follow MASMA. So for the MASMA, normally for the landed is 5 years, and then for industry 10 years. Then for the membrane they go for 100 years. Detention pond is 100 years. So that's how we design.
Okay.
Normally we just follow Masma lah. So any argument, sometimes authority come in and say, hey, I need 20-year ARI. So we just inform, okay, we refer Masma inform maximum only 10, why you need 20? That's how we argue, not argue lah, how we discuss and get something approved lah. Actually, all item is helping us to finalize our drawing lah. All the requirement, everything that authority requests is what we need for construction lah. Normally it's like that. So once you provide all item for authority, so that one you can use for the construction already. You no need to go and check again. So that one final already, you can issue for construction.
Okay, normally how long the authority will spend time now to check all the drawing and calculation.
Okay, and if the project is big, I think we go for the stage by stage. First we go for CAML. Maybe for the CAML fastest we can go 1 month lah. Depend on how big the project lah. Fastest 1 month, and then when we tackle the CAML, everything submitted, wait for the CAML approved, then only we go for the detailed submission.
Okay, thank you. I think that's all for me.
Okay, all right. Thank you.
Hey, thank you, Mr. Hairi, for dropping quite a few questions there. Right, so I think this is interesting because there is a need to, basically we have to undergo CAML then before going to CAMP, right? So I think if I look at the chat box, right, I think so far there's no questions already. Okay, so Mr. Imran, how long have you been doing, basically you are always the one in charge for the planning process, is it?
Yeah. I think construction lah.
How many years already?
I have I think quite long, almost 9 years.
Wow, okay. All right. So I think so far, because we have no questions, so maybe I can pass the time back to our MC.
All right.
Thank you, Mr. Imran.
Thank you.
Thank you to TS Dr. Peniel Ang Sung Eun. On this occasion as well, I would like to thank to the invited panel for their sharing just now.